So you have some images that you brought that you like to talk about in your paintings.
Yes.
So
I brought my paintings, and I'd like to talk about some of those images now.
yes. And so the ones that you have in the studio are gorgeous as well. So tell us a little bit about what you've brought.
Well, this painting here is that we have on the screen is called Fine Sailing. It's one of a set of studies that I did while I was in Monterey. I wanted to go explore, and I'm looking at color there, and I'm really trying to just prepare for a series of paintings. And we can go to the next one. So you can see this was done a very similar time, similar place. And these are small 8x10 studies that I do on location, but not at the beach. I don't like sand in my paintings.
No, so do you take photographs and then?
I take photographs and I do sketches and I do watercolor studies, and then I'll go back to my hotel. Great thing about acrylic is it doesn't smell, right? So,
right.
And I will work on these small studies.
Oh, and then bring them back to your studio.
And then bring them back to my studio, yeah.
So then this next one is another ocean scene. It's beautiful.
And here I was really trying to capture the motion of the waves. It was a little more active day, and I got a lot of spray, and I was working with the spray.
That looks like the one that I have in my own collection. It's beautiful.
And here's another one. I was really studying. This one's a little larger. It's 16 by 20. And again, I'm looking at the waves and the spray and trying to get all the different feel of the water there.
I can see you used a different blue, though.
I did, yes.
Yeah, very nice.
And this is a triptych. I also like to experiment with the shape of my paintings and the format. And here I was trying to capture the silvery blue of the eucalyptus and the cherry blossoms on the hill, and just trying to add a little color to it. I tend to think of California in a lot of oranges and yellows and things.
That one actually makes me think that you have some influence from Japan in it.
Well, and it's true, I do. I spent time there, and in Japan. I think it started influencing my artwork the minute I got to California, because there's quite an Asian influence here in California. And then I got to travel in Asia a little bit, and the cherry blossoms, of course, are always spectacular there. So, and here I'm using a very long format. This is a 12 by 36, and I'm kind of experimenting with the long format because I wanted to get a little bit of that scroll look that you get in Japanese paintings, and because there isn't a lot of wall space today in people's houses. And I've had a number of people come up to me and say, oh, do you have anything, more vertical? Because I don't really have a lot of space. And so I started doing a series of these vertical paintings, which are challenging from a composition standpoint.
Yes.
And this is also from around the Monterey area, Monterey Carmel area. And it's slightly fictionalized. It's not, you couldn't find that exact place. But if you look around, it'll be reminiscent of that. But here I use a lot of the textures that I was talking about in the video. I use some of the large garnet stones in front, and then as it grades toward the back, I used a smaller one, and then the glass bead at the very farthest to actually create that look of distance.
Well, the texture, yeah, when you see more of the texture when you're up close to something and farther in the distance, the texture and the details.
Exactly.
Right, that's a really nice idea. I like that with the texture.
It helps you do that, helps remind you to do that, I guess.
Right, yeah, no, that's an excellent use of texture. I like that one.
This is a painting, it's called Japan Sun, and it was reminiscent of this place I went. I went to a small fishing village that was kind of a historical fishing village, and we walked around, and it was sweltering hot and very, very, very humid. You just can't describe the humidity. You practically have to part the air to move forward. And we climbed up to a little hill, and we were looking out on the inland sea, and it was so beautiful. And I wanted to paint a painting that would give that, the feel of the waves lapping, right? And you don't really see where they're coming from because the air is so thick, and you just have that feeling of physical feeling of the air. And I wanted to capture that in this painting.
That definitely does, and it's calming, but the color in the red is just energetic. It's a beautiful painting. I can feel the mugginess right now. Excellent.
And this painting is, I was looking for a very, very, very peaceful feeling to this painting. And so I used, I have pink and yellow washes underneath the blue. And in the water, I used a lot of the clear gel to create a texture. I had a wash underneath it, and then used a clear gel. And then I used another wash over the top of it, which accented the texture of the clear gel. And also, you can see I use texture in the islands in the front, and then a smaller texture in the islands in the back, and to give that tranquil feel. It's one of my favorite paintings, actually.
That's one of your favorites?
That's one of my favorites,
it's very calming.
This is called Five Birds, and and again, it's I love to experiment with color.
I can see the different primary colors that you've used, and it looks like you mixed some green in there a little bit.
Yes, I used a green gold. It's a combination color, and then I use the subsidiary colors in that.
And these are surface. Look at those waves. I can see the texture in it and just jumping off the canvas. That's fantastic.
Yeah, this was done almost entirely in a palette knife, and to help me get that, I wanted to paint it fast to get that energy and that texture, and that really got it moving there, I thought.
Excellent. Well, those are beautiful images. Excellent work, Nancy. Thank you for bringing them in.
Thank you.
So when you're working on a painting, what is your process? You start planning with the colors and you choose your color palette. What is the process that you go through to create the picture that you end up with?
Well, let me show you some of the things I do. I'll go to a site and I'll just visit a site. I'll take, a stack of photos. I'll do a bunch of sketches, of the site, and I'll make notes to myself.
Oh, let's see the sketch there.
Well, it's just a really rough sketch.
So you sort of outline sketch.
And then I might do a watercolor study, something like this. And then I'll get back to my studio, and I'll take all these materials and my memories, my notes, everything, and then I'll lay them out, and I'll develop a composition. And once I've developed the composition, then I'll do a value study, which is just a little drawing that's, gives me the lights and darks and that sort of thing. And then I'll start painting. I'll lay down a rough sketch on the canvas, put a wash over it, and then I'll cover the painting. I'll cover the canvas top to bottom. Once I do that, I begin to refine it, and and then we're ready for the final coating. But what happens along in there is that you start out and you have this great idea, and it's going to be great. You just know it's going to be great. You get about halfway through, and it's like, oh my gosh, this isn't working. It's not working. I don't know what's wrong. It's not working. Then you get a little further along, and you say to yourself, wow, it might work. It might work out, right? And then you get even further along, you go, oh, this is great, it's going to work out. And by the time I'm finished with the painting, if it's a good painting, right, I'll think it's the greatest thing in the world. Of course, a couple days, I'll calm down.
Well, that's the creative process, and it takes you over. But I can't tell you how many artists I've talked to who say the same thing. You get to a point in a painting, and you go, how am I ever going to make this work? How can I get this color to look good with this color and make the textures right? So, yes,
it's a constant struggle. One time when I was in Japan, I was in the Tokyo station, and I was trying to get from the Shinkansen to the subway. And if you've ever been to Tokyo Station, it's huge. It's a massive station. And it's pretty easy to get from the Shinkansen to the regular tracks. But to get to the subway, it's a little further along. So I asked the conductor how to get there. And of course, he replied to me, of course, all in Japanese, right? And I started, but it was kind of convoluted. And I thought, oh my gosh, I don't think that's right. So I didn't follow the directions, and then finally, after an hour or so, I went back, followed the directions. Turned out I had understood him perfectly, and so just goes to show you have to trust
in yourself.
You
exactly.
have to trust yourself.
You have to trust, and that's the artistic process. We wouldn't be artists if we didn't believe that.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for coming and being part of Talk Art, Nance, and thank you so much for producing our show. You do an excellent job. We wouldn't have anything to show if it weren't for you. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching our show, Talk Art.